Bonsoir, messieurs et dames. Je suis le Sörgel de l'État de Sandus et je vous parle en un topic, euh, de- un- d'un topic euh, que m'intéresse, m'intéresse, je sais pas. Euh, alors, je parlerai en anglais parce que c'est ma langue maternelle. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As many of you are certainly aware of, I am the Sogamo of the state of Sandus, and I repeat that not because I'm uncertain as if many of you would remember that, but it seems that some are continuously incapable of pronouncing Sogamo correctly. Um, it is not as it is most recently been pronounced. It is not Sogomo, it is not Sagmo, it is Sogmo. And the reason why I state this is because it is an Abenaki word. Um, Je suis un autochtone, Mary India, um, Nideanobai. I'm a Native American, an Abenaki, um, and the reason why I constantly push for the correct pronunciation of the word Sogamo, which, by the way, means chief in our language, is because um, it is uh, it is basically a symbol of the suffering of uh, my people for the past 300 years, for the past 3 centuries, and their oppression and their uh, harsh destruction at the hands of both the French and the English. So that is why I, I've, I'm very particular at the pronunciation of this word. Another thing, just as it is in Spanish, veridad, and in French, vérité, um, it is veritum sandus, not veritum, and that means a truth of Sandus, which is, of course, our official journal. So the reason why I've started this address this evening is because, uh, well, both in French, is because, and overall, is because not only do my Native American people hail from southern Quebec, but the um, person this speech is addressed to hails from Montreal, Quebec. Um, Mr. Everson of the Montosh Empire, pardon me if I mispronounce anything, um, has uh, given us all quite an earful in his speech. Um, he begins first off by uh, questioning seemingly where Mr. Lethler is, talking about all these 5 people who have supported him, uh, and what article he's referencing. Um, this issue seemingly appeared again with Mr. Fish and with Mr. Byer, who seemed to have no recollection as to which article Mr. Lethler was talking about, and I'm sure had all 3 of them done better research, then they would have realized that Mr. Lethler was referencing not only the invitation sent um, out on Veritum Sandus, Uh, but he was also referencing the 5 people that showed their support for the invitation. I find it very odd when all 3 of them are seemingly unaware of the invitation and yet are responding to Mr. Lethler's return. I mean, it's quite obviously quite easy. All you had to do is click the back button on the official journal, and it would take you to, let me even check, it would take you to an article that is called A Call for a New Age. And it is an entire article which states 3 times that it is an invitation. The difficulty for some to have come to this realization is quite astounding. It's kind of concerning as to who we have in this community. Um, he also continuously berates Mr. Leffler, and I find it ironic because it seems that Mr. Everson joined this community in January of 2011. At least that's the earliest case of his articles here upon the wiki. Um, his personal uh, article seems to originate from the 20th of May 2011, and his article on the Empire of Montosh seems to originate from January of that same year. Um, so the fact that Mr. Everson continuously berates Mr. Leffler, seemingly without the same citations, which, by the way, are the same arguments that Mr. Beyer had. Um, so essentially, he's arguing the same thing, just different words. Uh, but it seems that he hasn't been able to cite anything as well. Um, I find it kind of amusing that he's discussing this matter as if it affects him personally. And he's discussing it as if Mr. Leffler actually wants power. He doesn't. Otherwise, I'm sure he would most likely come back and he would have responded to all of your articles by now. Because Mr. Leffler, whenever he wants something, typically follows through it and with it. However, he hasn't even been here since, well, was last night when he first came back. So Mr. Leffler hasn't even returned exactly to the community. He hasn't even stepped a foot in, and yet he's continuously barraged and attacked, as if he's trying to usurp the community, and as if he's trying uh, to reassume power. And frankly, that's an over-exaggeration. That has gone too far, and I'm honestly concerned as to why people are giving it credence. Because, frankly, if he truly wanted power, first of all, he would never have left. Second of all, he wouldn't have left this the time after Yabloko Gate. He would have continued through it. And, finally, he would have come back much sooner. And, finally, when he did come back, he would have gone to work immediately. But no, he hasn't even been on the forum. He hasn't even been in any large group for micronationalists on Skype. He hasn't been in the Micropolitan Lounge. No, he's been in the GUM Lounge. He's been in a small group of people that he's actually allowed to be in. And just as he said before, just as we reached consensus before, even though he filed the dossier, which, by the way, seemingly and politically failed, which is why I'm concerned as to why Mr. Everson is continuously blaming him for something it's obvious that Mr. Aldrich Lucas did. He's blaming, pardon me, I'm going off on a tangent, but I will continue on it. He's blaming Mr. Leffler for the removal of Mr. Aldrich Lucas. And yet, Mr. Aldrich Lucas's removal came months after the fact. It makes no coherent sense. And I'm not certain as to if Mr. Everson actually believes himself, but frankly, I don't believe anyone should, because you can't blame someone for something someone did. What is it? I don't know, 6, 7, maybe even 5 months after the fact? You can't do that. That would be like, I don't know, blaming Lenin for letting the Nazis take power and falling in 1945. You can't do that at all because it doesn't make any coherent sense. To be honest, I entirely forget as to what I was saying before I went off on this tangent. Um, but frankly, and I know that Mr. Frederick has already pointed out that I overuse frankly too much, but Mr. Everson has no room to discuss this topic as if he has any personal experience, because those who actually do have personal experience only use that experience and they talk about their feelings. They talk about their feelings, how awful it made them feel to have constant criticism. And, by the way, I'm sure we all had criticism by Mr. Leffler. All of those who supported the invitation, who were around at the time, Mr. Bradley of Doulahan, Mr. Tierney, and I, we all had criticism given to us by Mr. Leffler. To say otherwise would be entirely untrue. And those who are continuously and still against Mr. Leffler's return, even though he hasn't even actually returned, are those who personally dislike him. And one of those people would be Mr. Pekovsky, who, when Mr. Leffler came back, was seemingly okay with it. And now, several months after the fact, Mr. Pekovsky has given a roundabout face. He has changed his mind. With that, I'm afraid that there's truly nothing else I can address, because nothing else in this speech stood out to me as being memorable or noticeable, as unlikely they do in other speeches. But the fact is that Mr. Leffler hasn't even actually returned. And yet for the past day now, I've been writing articles, and for the past 3 or 4 days, I've had to defend this invitation, which, by the way, has seemingly succeeded, because Mr. Leffler is returning in the very same capacity that I had hoped him to return, and that is to become an advising force for the community. He has said before, and he has said it again, that if those who do not want to talk to him, that they should simply not talk to him. He will not put himself over them. He will not even talk to them until they actually want to talk to him. He said this before, he's saying it now, and many people have questioned Mr. Leffler's word. But I'm going to say this: even if you cannot honor his word, even if you cannot honor his intention, then this gives you plenty of ammo, for if he should violate his word, that is your ammunition. That is your means of getting him out. But do not attack him when he hasn't even come into the community yet. Do not even attack him by usage of pathos. Do not attack him by having sentimental feelings about how awful it was. Because it was awful for all of us. Some people have said, well, we don't really want conflicts back. I'm sorry? who said that they were. I've actually had a discussion with someone who said, well, everyone was divided into blocks back then. And I was sort of amazed, and I replied, we have blocks now. We will always have blocks. There will always be a block mentality. Today we have the GUM. We have Tasbac. We have the nations which surround Zealandia. Back then, in the times of Lethler, we had the GUM, we had the OAM, we had the ICA, we had the left block, the red block also, as it's known. We had many blocks, and we still do. Many people say that there have been less conflicts, and that's not true. That's not true at all. Because when Mr. Lucas made the awful mistake of vandalizing the wiki, there was a conflict then. There was also a conflict when this state pushed for Zealandia and Diana to be removed from the GUM. So there have been conflicts, and there always will be conflicts, because all of us will continuously disagree. And just because Mr. Lethler is back does not give credence to the accusations that he will strive for power, that there will be more blocks, or that there will be more conflicts. In fact, I question that accusation. In fact, I would blame those who have just awfully over-exaggerated, awfully overreacted towards his return, because he hasn't even said anything large. He simply said, I'm returning, and everyone lost their mind. And so I'm questioning the statements that everyone has said that, oh, he will make more conflicts for us. I'm questioning that, because it seems that those people are the ones making the conflicts. And with that, I truly have nothing else to say. And at that, bonne nuit, messieurs, et merci.